Hi everyone, the following is a video tutorial for how to create your drawing sheets for our Skyscraper project. At this point I have all of my models and all of my assemblies finished. So I have on my first tab of my document here, let me just go ahead and hide my tools. On my first tab of the document I have my Sears Tower building. On the second tab I have my companion building. And at a certain point, if you're done modeling and you want to turn off your planes, you can right click in this space and say hide all planes or hide one at a time. So I'm going to say hide all. Just get that zoomed in a little bit so I can see it and appreciate it on its own. My city block, same thing. You don't have to do the planes. I just thought I'd mention that at the start of this video. But I have my city block file. I have my plaza sign as one of my accessories, my steel tree as my second accessory, and then the hot dog cart as my third. And so all of those individual part files, those part tabs, part studios, I should call them, have then been assembled here in my assembly file. And so again, I have my main structure, my companion building, my sign, my tree, and then if I rotate the model here, you'll see my hot dog cart down in the middle. So I have all those parts placed. And once you have your assembly finished, completed, and you're happy with all the placement of the objects and everything, there's two things that we want to tweak here on this tab. And that's over here on the right-hand side of the screen. So you have an option here called BOM table, that's bill of materials. And on this, we need to edit the table to have different categories. So by default, there are 4 categories. It's item, quantity, and then I apologize, I forget what the other 2 are. But whatever those other 2 options are, we want to just remove them. You can do that by right-clicking and saying remove the column. So remove those 2 and want to add name and material. And when you go to add name and material, to do that, in the upper right-hand corner here, you have a drop-down menu for add column. You'll find name and material. They've been removed from my list because they're already in here. But those are the 4 things that we want to have showing on the bill of materials. And you'll notice then when you make that switch that some of your names might not be showing up appropriately. I would venture to say that they're all showing as maybe part 1, which is the default on your part tabs. So if you go back to one of your part files, for example, down here on the parts list, it probably says part 1, or it might have multiple parts if that's how you created it. My suggestion to you is to join all those parts together so you just have one line item here, and then right click on that and rename it. So at the top of the list, you can rename it. So I changed mine from part 1 to companion building. So it's not enough to just have your tab name. You also must name it right here underneath parts. And this is what will actually populate in that bill of materials list then. So you just have to go through each one of your files and set it all up properly. Set the material, and you can be kind of vague and just apply one thing for all of it. So like for my city block, I made it concrete. And then for my tower, the companion building, the sign, and the tree, I just made it all steel. And then for the hot dog cart, I found high density fiber board and felt like that was appropriate. So just work on setting the material, go through the process of setting a material for each one of those files. And again, to do that, on the parts list here, you can right click and go to edit or assign material. Once you access this panel, there's a whole list of things in here. You can search for it by different names, but just go through and find something appropriate for your design and set it to the part. That's it for this tab on the assembly. The second thing that you want to check here is going to be called an exploded view. So that's at the bottom. So you want to click on exploded view here. And I actually have 2. That's just because I made a second one as an example during class the other day. But what this is going to do, if I click on my explode, I have to double click on explode 1. It'll show you all of the parts now expanded away from the assembly that we had put them into. And that's a really important part of the process for showing designs and how parts will actually interact with each other. So when you're making your exploded view, a couple of things. You just need to make sure that you can clearly see each individual part. They're not overlapping in any way. And that's pretty much it. So I'll go through the process of creating an exploded view just to share with you that example. When you're done, for reference, just click done, and it brings you back to your assembly file again. So I'll go ahead and click add exploded view down here. And all you have to do is select one component at a time, and then you get these arrows that you can click and drag on. So I'll click and drag my tower straight up off the city block. When I release my button, it creates a step for me, and you can edit the distance and change the direction if you need to. I'm just going to hit check mark. Make sure Exploded Lines has the check mark next to it. That way it'll show a trail. Although I noticed if the building is a certain size or the part is a certain size, and you don't go far enough away, you might not see it. So I'm not going to see an exploded line here, but that's okay. I'll hit check mark, and then I want to select the next part. For this one, I'll pull it out to the right, and when I release, it creates exploded step 2. Here you can see that exploded line that gets created. It's just kind of showing where it came from to where it is now. And again, change the distance if you need to, but not necessary. So again, just go through this process of pulling off one part at a time. Hit the check mark. Let me get the sign pushed off here to the left. Check mark. And then my hot dog cart, I will pull off on this angle and hit check mark. And so that is the exploded view. We will then place that on a drawing sheet. So let me just click done. I can open that again. So this is one of the types of views that we want to place on our drawing sheets, and you make it here in the assembly file. So now that that's taken care of, I'll just click done. And we want to move over to drawing sheets. And so on my drawing sheet tab, I'll start over from scratch. But if essentially what I have here is our GBS title block that I've created for us to all use. And when you go to start a new drawing sheet, that should be the only option that you see now. But I wanted to start off by showing you the 6 different sheets that you'll have and the 6 sheets that I'll need you to create to finish off this project. So sheet number 1, just double click that and open it up. Here it is just a multi-view, including an isometric of my Sears Tower building. So I want you to place a multi-view. A front view goes first, then top, then side, and then an isometric view. And then just dimension the overall height, width, and depth of the part. We could get really carried away trying to fully dimension this object or these parts that we've created. And that would be way too much at this stage of the game. So just go ahead and do the overall height, width, and depth, and that should be fine. The only other thing is on the ISO views, we'll check a box to show shaded. Really, it's just a right click, and you want to say show shaded view. Right now it says hide because it's already active. So for the other 3 views, the front, side, and top view, no shade. Isometric view, yes shade. All right, so that's sheet number 1. Sheet number 2 will be the companion building. And so again, same 3 types of views, height, width, and depth. Overall dimensions are on there. The isometric view is shaded. The other 3 are not. Sheet number 3 will be for my city block, same thing. So essentially giving a sheet for each one of these parts. And then for my accessories, they're small enough and I can fit them at a scale where I can put them all on one sheet. So my thought process was, let's try working on creating a sheet where you have different types of parts in there. And that would require you to do some editing to the title block and to place additional labels and such. So I have multi-views and ISO views for each one of my accessories. I'm not requiring you to do dimensions for these because they might be very intricate and again, just kind of difficult to do. So we can leave dimensions off of this sheet. Some of the things you'll need to modify are just down here on the title block. It pulls in a scale for us based on the first item that you put in. But as you can see, each one of my objects has a different scale. So hot dog cart's 3:1, tree is 2:1, my sign is 1:1, which means down here, instead of it saying just one of those values, we can override that and say varies. So that's what I have set on this drawing sheet. And then moving down the list, 2 more to go. We have an assembly sheet here. And this is now my assembly file with the overall height, width, and depth dimensioned. So I'm 2 by 2 because that's our city block size. And then my overall height with everything assembled together is just over 8 1/4 of an inch. But again, 3 principal views of the multi-view, front, side, and top. And then I have a shaded isometric view off to the side here. And then on our last sheet, this is where that exploded view and the bill of materials are going to come into play. So here you can see my bill of materials. You just place that by going up to the top here and placing the BOM table, get that nested in there. And then you go ahead and place a view of your exploded view, and then we want to add balloons to it, or I guess in this software, it's just called a callout. The callouts have numbers in them, and those numbers relate to the item number here on the bill of materials list. So essentially you could say, oh, what is number 6? Number 6 is a hot dog cart, and it's made with high density fiberboard. That's how we would kind of read through these. So those are our 6 different sheets, and now I will go through the process of creating those from scratch.